I've never seen a diamond in the flesh.
Hey, Dr. McFarland here, working from home. And this is my Rona work world. Look. But here we are with this video now, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk to you about field experience within the clinical mental health counseling program. And even though it's not a fun topic, it doesn't mean that this can't be a fun video. So let's get started. First thing I'm gonna show you is the out-of-office email reply that you will receive if you send me an email to my Lamar email address. And here it is. So here you can see I'm in my Lamar email account, and I can't show you a lot of my screen, but I can show you a portion of it because I don't want to break FERPA law or betray anybody's confidentiality, right? But you can see here that this is an email that I sent to myself from Shannon. It says L. Williams, that's my former name, it's now McFarland, to Shannon. And whenever I sent this to myself, I got this little out of office reply. So if you click on that, if you send me an email and get that reply, click on it, and then it brings the office reply. It opens it for you. Here at the top, you might see something like this. At the top portion, I change periodically, just based on, when I'm going to be away from the office for small periods of time here and there. So I change this out at the top quite a bit. But down at the bottom, I change this out much less frequently. And I include field experience information for students here, which, by the way, I do need to update it. But I digress. At the very bottom, you see it says the FAQ document. Now, this is a document that I created for students in the clinical mental health counseling program, and it contains the answers to all kinds of questions that students send me about field experience. And the link to it, or the URL, is included, and it goes all the way through here. And if you copy that and paste it into your browser, it will bring it up for you. So, gotta keep it exciting. So, I'm gonna tell you a joke. Why did Waldo go to therapy? To find himself, of course. Okay, so here we are. If you copy that link from my out-of-office reply into your browser, it will bring you to this Google Doc that I created for students in the clinical mental health counseling program. Please note, if you're in the marriage and family program, a lot of this will apply to you. The bulk of it will, in fact. But there are some nuances that are different between your field experience requirements and the requirements for clinical mental health counseling students. So, I'm not going to just regurgitate all the information that's in the document, because if I wanted to do that, then I would not have created the FAQ document. Okay, so with that disclaimer out of the way, I'm just going to familiarize you with the document, kind of show you the kind of information that you can find in it. And, whoops, I got a new email. Here we go. We begin here. You can see that the table of contents shows information is organized into different sections. We have field experience basics, applying for field experience courses, field experience sites, field experience supervision, goes down to practicum and the requirements for that, internships 1 and 2, and then it goes further. There's a section about the CPCE exam and the NCE, or your licensure exams. And finally, graduate student internship versus requirements for your licensed internship. So, any question that you see here, if you just click it, it'll bring up a link, and if you click the link, it'll take you directly to the question. Okay. Now, I am going to start up at the top with the basics. Regarding this section, essentially the important things that you need to know are that for the clinical mental health counseling students, there are 3 field experience courses that are required. The first is practicum, and following practicum, students take internship 1 and then they take internship 2. Now these are courses that have to be taken in that order, and they're taken at the very end of your program. Now also in that section about field experience basics, you'll see the courses that are prerequisites to field experience courses, and you'll also see that you can direct questions about field experience to the field experience coordinator, which currently is me. Okay, so moving along to the next section, applying for field experience courses. You have to know up front that you can't just register yourself for these courses. You have to go through an approval process. So the process as of now is that the application, the field experience application, is circulated via email to all students at the beginning of each semester, and that students then have to complete the application and then email it in to this address, cmhcfieldexp@lamar.edu. So, there are several things that have to be turned in with your field experience application. One of those is it says unofficial transcript, but the grade audit, which you can do in self-serve banner, that's what you would submit for your unofficial transcript. Whoever your site supervisor is going to be out at your field experience site, you need to send proof or verification of their license to practice counseling, and you need to submit a copy of your own professional liability insurance policy. Those things have to accompany the field experience application. Sometimes a site requests an affiliation agreement, and this is an agreement between the site and the university that kind of outlines the responsibilities of each party. Lamar does not require an affiliation agreement for your site. If your site wants it, then we'll have to get one in place for you before you can begin your practicum or internship at that site. And the person that you need to email about that is here, Ms. Markentel, and there's her email address. It's in here. So what this means is that it is the student's obligation and responsibility to ask the site, someone at the site, their site supervisor, if the site will need an affiliation agreement, and then to notify Ms. Markentel of that. Also, here you can see these are the deadlines for applications for each semester, and you please keep in mind that you're going to want to apply for practicum the semester before you want to take it. And so if you're wanting to apply to take practicum in the fall, then you need to get your application turned in by June 1st. Spring, you need to get it turned in by October 1st. And if you want to take it in the summer, by March 1st. You need to have approximately 13 to 14 classes under your belt by the time you enter practicum. And again, there are some prerequisites that must be a part of those 13 to 14 courses that you have under your belt. The rest of this section just talks about how will I know if my application's approved, and if I have a deficiency with my application, what happens. And I'm going to just let you read that on your time. And just to keep you entertained, a Freudian slip, that's when you say one thing and mean your mother. Okay, moving right along. Next section, field experience sites. Right now, I'm looking at the table of contents to show you the kinds of things the kinds of information that you can find here. First of all, a field experience site is a facility in your local community that provides counseling services. You should start looking for a field experience site as early as possible in your program. Some sites have processes for selecting practicum and internship students that resemble employment hiring processes, so it could take some time to be selected, chosen, to get started. But when you're looking for one of these sites, you're looking for, again, they need to provide counseling services. And so types of businesses that can qualify would be local mental health authorities, or what have been called MHMRA facilities, organizations. They can be juvenile justice, it can be prison system, it can be a women and children shelter, all kinds of things. And the list that is included in this section is longer than the list that I just articulated for you. A lot of people want to know if it can be your current place of employment. If you're wondering about that question, or if you're wondering about the next question, which is, can it be a school, you're going to need to read the answers to those questions in this FAQ document very carefully. You can have more than one field experience site at a time. And what I want to do right now for this section is specifically, I want to go to this question at the bottom. How many hours will I be required to work at my site each week? I'm going to click it and go there. And here's the answer. Students who are in practicum have to accrue 100 practice hours over the semester. Internship 1 requires 300 and internship 2 requires 300. And we consider internships 1 and 2 to be the combined internship experience. And so if you're wanting to know, like, how many hours a week will I have to work at my field experience site, if you keep going down, I've provided you with a chart. So if you're going to want to take practicum in the summer session, right here, weeks in a summer semester are 10, and you'll need to do about 10 hours a week. If you're wanting to take, I'm going to go down, internship 2 in the fall, there are 15 weeks in that semester, and it'll wind up being about 20 hours a week. It is allowable to co-enroll for internships 1 and 2 in the same semester, but what that means is that you have to do all 600 hours in one semester. And I just like for students to know up front that if you co-enroll and don't get all 600 hours, then you will fail internships 1 and 2. So we do recommend that students just pace themselves and take internship 1 in a semester by itself and internship 2 in a semester by itself. So that should help you kind of know how much time you'll be spending at your site. Before we talk about field experience supervision, what was I going to say? I digress. So that was I just had a big brain. So I can't remember what I wanted to add at the end of that last little tidbit. So let's just move right along. Let's talk about field experience supervision. Again, I'm looking at the table of contents, and we begin with, what is supervision? Supervision it's a professional and contractual relationship that between an expert in the field or a seasoned professional and then a new professional to provide that support that they need to get their feet wet and to learn the ropes, right? So while you are in practicum and in internships 1 and 2, you are required to participate in 2 kinds of supervision. The first kind is university supervision. And your university supervisor is going to be your instructor for the course, whatever field experience course you're enrolled in. And you will have to meet with your university supervisor for an average of 1.5 hours weekly throughout the duration of the semester. And in university supervision sessions, you and your peers who also are where you are in field experience will talk about cases, and your professor will provide you with feedback, and there will be assignments that you'll have to complete and submit as you go through the semester. And that's what university supervision is. No, you do not pay for university supervision because you pay tuition for that, right? Then you also have to participate, I'm going to go down, in what we call site supervision. And this is with your site supervisor of record, who is approved to be your site supervisor when you submit your field experience application. A common question that I get from students is this one here: does my site supervisor have to be an LPCS? Here's the answer: no, not while you are a graduate student internship, okay? Not while you're a graduate student intern. And my dog, he wants to be a part of this. So anyway, let's move along. You have to meet for site supervision with your site supervisor 1 hour each week throughout the duration of the semester. And again, your site supervisor, in those discussions, you will be conceptualizing cases, you'll be learning how to complete treatment plans there at the site in their preferred way, and progress notes, and so on and so forth. Now, you cannot, outside of coronavirus world, students cannot meet with their site supervisors virtually. Give me just
I had a little snafu.
Okay, so moving on. Before I had the snafu, I was talking about meeting with site supervisor virtually. In our old life, and hopefully the lives that we will have moving forward from the coronavirus pandemic, students are not allowed to meet virtually for site supervision. It has to be face-to-face. However, during this crazy time of coronavirus, students who currently are in field experience courses and they're not able to go to their sites, we are allowing accommodations for them, and one of those accommodations is virtual site supervision. So just know that when you take practicum or internship, if the world still is the coronavirus world and we're still experiencing hardships related to it, information about accommodations will be circulated to you and your professor. But right now, I'll not go into all of that. We'll just wait and see what the world is like when it's time for you to take your field experience courses. Moving on.
Even Frankie gets a little bored with this.
So now let's talk about practicum, which is the first field experience course that you will take. We like to think about practicum as dipping your toe in the water before you go to internship. So you're getting a taste of counseling work in the field. And whenever you are in practicum, yes, You must have a field experience site and an approved site supervisor, and you will work at your site and you will accrue practice hours. For practicum, students must accrue a minimum of 100 total hours over the academic semester, and at least 40 of those must be what we call direct hours, and 60 must be what we call indirect hours. I'll tell you more about that in just a minute. But, additionally, students must participate again in, individual or triadic supervision each week with their site supervisor throughout the semester. And what we mean by triadic is when you meet with your site supervisor, it must be one-on-one or 2 student interns with the site supervisor, but no more than 2 is acceptable for that supervision piece. You still have to participate in 1.5 hours on average of university supervision each week with your instructor and your peers in your program, and then you will have some other assignments to complete. Of course, this section talks about all of the different requirements and more intricacies of practicum. If you don't achieve the 100 practice hours, you will not pass practicum, okay? And you cannot roll extra practicum hours over to internship and count them for internship. Now I'm going to repeat this part.
If we're still living in Rona world at the time that you are in practicum or internship, then there might be accommodations for some of these things, and you will be notified of those accommodations when the semester begins. That's the part I needed to repeat.
Now, it's important that we talk about direct hours versus indirect hours. Remember that I said for practicum, at least 40 hours during the semester, 40 hours of working at your site, they need to be direct. So direct hours, these are hours in which you actually are working with a client. You are performing a counseling session, you are doing a psychosocial assessment or a risk assessment, you are reviewing and or co-constructing a treatment plan with the client. Actual things that you do with the client with them present. In contrast, indirect hours, these are all of the things that we do when the client is away from us. So we do our progress notes, and sometimes we create a treatment plan in the absence of the client. We go to team meetings, we participate in trainings, we participate in university supervision with our class at Lamar, and that counts as indirect time. And we do reading and research on topics that are related to a client's treatment, right? So if I have a client who presents with something that I don't know much about or I'm not real familiar with, and I look up some peer-reviewed articles or spend time in the DSM-5 becoming familiar with a diagnosis, maybe that can be indirect time.
Okay, here's a little brain break. So it's the receptionist, and she says, "Doctor, there's a patient here who thinks he is invisible." And the doctor says, "Well, tell him I can't see him."
So moving along to internships 1 and 2. It really is very much the same as practicum, except when you're enrolled in internship 1 and then 2, across both semesters, you need to achieve or accrue at least 600 practice hours.
We like to tell students to aim for 300 in internship 1 and then aim for 300 in internship 2. But as long as the student has a minimum of 600 hours across both courses, and by the time that they finish internship 2, then they satisfy that requirement. If 240, at least 240 of those hours are direct hours, and 360 of those are indirect hours, okay? And again, you can co-enroll in internships 1 and 2, meaning you can take them the same semester together, but it's a really tough deal, and there's a lot at risk if you don't achieve all of the hours. So this section talks about the requirements of internship, and I encourage you to read through it. Again, just like you do in practicum, you will, while you're in internship 1 and 2, you will participate in 1 hour a week of individual or triadic supervision with your site supervisor, and you will participate in an average of an hour and a half a week of weekly university supervision with your course professor. You will have assignments to complete, and so on and so forth. So I encourage you just to read through the details that are presented in this section about internships 1 and 2 before we move along and talk about the CPCE.
Yes. My little video clips, they're a little corny, but hopefully they're making this a lot easier than it would have been for you otherwise. So let's just keep going.
All right. So next we talk about the CPCE exam, which maybe you've heard of. CPCE stands for the Counselor Preparation Comprehensive Exam. It is the exam that you will take for your graduate school comps, okay? Students take it through Pearson, and they take it at a Pearson testing facility in their community. The CPC exam, as you can see here, is taken during the semester that the student is enrolled in practicum. There is a fee for students to take the CPCE, which is $150, which is the student's responsibility. And in this section, it talks about how you can get accommodations for the exam if you need them, how many questions are on it, the format of the questions, the different content areas. I will tell you that the CPCE is based on CACREP's 8 content areas, which are listed here. How much time that you'll have to complete it and how you can study for it. Let me go back up here. I can't recommend one particular testing manual for you. Students can choose whatever they want, study materials they want to use, but a common one you see is listed here. The title of it is The Encyclopedia of Counseling by Howard Rosenthal. At this time, a passing score is a 70, and this talks about what happens if you don't pass the CPCE exam. And while I've got you here, let's just go ahead and talk about the NCE. Remember the CPCE exam, that is your comprehensive exam to demonstrate your learning of the field, your knowledge of counseling. In order to be eligible for graduation, you have to pass the CPCE exam. But when you graduate and you apply for your license, that's when you'll take the NCE exam, or you might take the NCMHC exam, as you see here, which stands for the National Clinical Mental Health Counseling Exam. To know which exam that you need to take, you need to consult with your state licensing board. Some states say you have to take the NCE. Some want their candidates to take the NCMHCE, and some states want them both, and then some other states still might say, we want you to take one of these, but in addition, we have our own state tests that you have to take. So you just have to consult with your licensing board. But again, this is an exam that you take after graduation. Now, you might have heard rumors students can take it before they graduate. I will tell you that that rumor is true. When you're in internship 2, you're given the opportunity to register for it and take it that semester, but you just have to know that if you opt to take it before you graduate, and here goes Mr. Frankie again, it costs a lot more than if you wait to take it right after graduation. So this section again talks about the exams, what passing scores are, what happens if I fail, and so on and so forth.
Now, I have to tell y'all something very personal that upsets me very much. After years and years of going to see my therapist, she said something to me that just brought me to tears. She said, "No hablo inglés."
And finally, the last section, graduate student internship versus licensed internship. You know, students commonly confuse these two because of that word internship. It's used for both of them, right? Everything that I've been talking about thus far is about your student internship. So it's the internship that you do while you are a graduate student and before you graduate. But the licensed internship, that is the internship that you complete after you graduate, after you apply for your LPC intern license or the equivalent in your state, and when you begin to accrue hours in the field. And this period, this licensed internship period, has nothing to do with Lamar University, okay? Yes, you do have to find an LPC supervisor for that internship, and you do have to get a certain number of hours, and this is going to be according to your state board's laws, their rules. And so this section gives you some information about it. You know, what you might expect to pay for an LPC supervisor, because most of the time LPC interns do pay for this supervision, but they typically don't for the graduate student site supervisor. And so again, I encourage you to read through that. And that, y'all, that marks the end of FAQ Doc.
Now, yes, the Golden Girls. It's time for the Golden Girls for me, y'all. Thank y'all so much for enduring this with me. If you have questions, shoot me an email. I'm about to get some popcorn and watch the Golden Girls. I hope your residency is awesome.